Good morning, Facebook world. Happy National Public Lands Day. We're starting our broadcast for our National Public Lands Day event just a little early to make sure we are ironing out some of those logistics. I see a couple of people in the audience. My name is Maria. I'm an education specialist here at the Tijuana Estuary, and we are out here on this beautiful morning. And everybody hear me okay? We are going to be switching some audio devices here. I'm here to welcome everyone. If you're here for National Public Lands Day, you're in the right spot. Our virtual event this morning is with Park Ranger Debby Good, who we will introduce in just a minute. But I just want to make sure everybody can hear me okay, and then when Debby starts to speak, if you could give us feedback on that as well. Let's see who's on this morning. And we love comments, we love feedback, we appreciate that, and I hope that everyone is having a wonderful Friday morning at National Public Lands Day, part of a larger event, the Tijuana River Action Month. So if you've been tuning into some of those other virtual programs this week and last, and we still have a few more coming up, including this one this morning. So I'm going to pan this over. I'm not getting any comments. If anybody can hear me all right, let's see. If you could type in the comments, there may be a delay. We would love to know that the audio is working properly, at least from my end here. All right, well. All right, so we're going to be plugging in a microphone. Debby Good. Debby Good, who's going to be leading us in our celebration this morning for National Public Lands Day. So thank you, Debby Good. Take it away.
Can everybody hear me? Good. I hope that you're having a wonderful day. There's a crisp feel of fall in the air this morning. So happy National Public Lands Day. We are located today at Tijuana Slough National Wildlife Refuge, which is a small part of a larger system called the National Wildlife Refuge System that manages over 150 the American people. Managed by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. And our mission is to conserve and protect fish, wildlife, and plants and their habitats, and where appropriate, to restore native habitats for the benefit of the American people. We are also part of the scale marsh restoration with SWIA, the Nature Conservancy, and NOAA. So there are plenty of opportunities for volunteers and habitat management at Tijuana Slough. So we welcome you. The bike and hiking trails are open from daylight to dark 7 days a week. Tijuana Slough is also a globally National Public Lands Day. What is National Public National Public Lands Day was started in 1994 by the National Environmental Action Foundation to encourage meaningful stewardship volunteer opportunities and to do some hands-on environmental education. So we passed habitat and invasive plant removal, debris and refuge cleanup, trail work, goes on and on. But it's a special day for us to get together with our volunteers and accomplish great things for due to COVID pandemic. Appreciation for our open spaces and public lands. This year we really get to experience the importance of being out in nature and the healing qualities. And I'm hoping that this talk will give you a virtual sense of what we do, what our accomplishments are, and what our potential activities will be. So thank you. Talking about invasive species, which in this case are plants from other parts of the world. So invasive species may have been intentionally introduced as landscape plants that people didn't understand their invasive qualities, like pampas grass. If you go up the California coast, you see pampas grass in a lot of the coastal canyons. It's out of control. And the other way that they got here was in ships' ballast water, and grain shipments had mustard seeds and tumbleweed seeds. So once they get started and they take over, they use up natural resources like water and space that would be better served with the plants that are native to the location. So, are plants good and bad? Why do we bother removing them? Won't they just come back? My dog thinks that foxtails are bad, but that's only when they get in his ears. There are no good and bad plants, only good and bad locations. So primarily today, we're going to talk about the crystalline ice plant. This ice plant grows in the upper marsh transition zone, which is foraging and nesting habitat for the Belding savanna sparrow and the light-footed ridgeways rail. These two endangered species are endangered primarily because of loss of habitat. Over 90% of the habitat in the California coast has been filled in or built upon. And here at Tijuana Slough, we've done cutting-edge marsh restoration and developed strategies to create new salt marsh. Crystalline ice plant. Let's take a look. Notice the crystals, which are not crystals. They're actually specialized bladder cells that hold salt water And you can see how much this plant absorbs water from the species that are around it. It's really juicy. So why is this a problem? Not only does it kind of hog the water from other plants in the system, but it also concentrates the salts from the salt water, and as it dies, you can see some of the dried up plants, all those salts leach into the soil that and that creates a heavily alkaline substrate that inhibits the germination of plant species that would normally be here, like this pickleweed or alkali heath. So when the ground is salty, that chemical inhibition is called allelopathy. And allelopathy is when the plant releases chemical substances that prevent the encroachment of discourages the encroachment of other ecologically beneficial plant species. I hope you see why this restoration work is so important. Our refuge manager reminds us that this process of marsh restoration is a marathon, not a sprint. Moving from the marsh to the uplands, we're going to do a plant demonstration. Any questions? Okay, here we are. So the plant that I'm going to talk about today is Melasma laurina, otherwise known as Laurel Sumac. Laurel Sumac is a favorite perch and seed stop for many birds, and this small plant or shrub can be trimmed. If you trim the side and lateral branches, it can be trimmed to make a nice little shade tree. It's a great favorite of birds, and it's a really good shade for this habitat where there aren't a lot of trees. If you look out here, you can see some of the Laurel Sumac that is wind trimmed. It gets a lot bigger if it's not exposed to the salt air. So our first question when we're planting our plants is to make sure we have the proper size hole. And we pre-dug these holes, so I think we're pretty good. What we do is make sure that when we get them out of their containers, we like to gently tickle the roots to encourage them to find their way into their new space. And then here, since we have to water by hand, what we generally do is make a nice mound, kind of a berm like we make when we're building sand castles at the beach, so that when we hand water these plants, the water goes straight to the roots. So, Melasma laurina, or Laurel Sumac, is in the family Anacardiaceae. And Melasma laurina is the Latin binomial or binomial double name for the genus and species of a plant. So there might be many laurels and there might be many sumacs. So the common name doesn't give us the specifics that we need when we're botanists looking at plants. So now that we have great DNA testing capabilities, the taxonomists use the Latin names to either lump or split species of similar types. So it's important for us to know the genus and species of the plants as well as the common name. And our next plant will demonstrate this because it is the San Diego sunflower. So in San Diego, there are many types of sunflowers, and this is the perfect demonstration of why we use the genus and species, because a sunflower could refer to any of 100 species of plants. But this one is our very own San Diego sunflower, and the genus and species is Bahiopsis laciniata. So we're gonna plant this one right here. And one of the things you'll notice about this plant is that it has drought-tolerant adaptations where the leaves are shallow and upturned so that it doesn't allow for evaporation. And it also has tiny, small, little yellow flowers most of the year round. So it's an excellent plant for your home gardens. So one of the things that we like to talk about is to compare these plants, the plants that are drought tolerant here, with tropical plants. If you think about tropical plants, they have big, widespread leaves and large flowers. But in drought areas, this is the name of the game: small leaves and small flowers. Here we go. Here, let me get my shovel here. Another thing that's really lucky is that these native plants do well in really poor soils. And as you can see here, that's what we have. So we like to make sure when we're planting that we don't have any underground tunnels through here, because when air and water meet, it creates the opportunity to develop a fungus and root rot. So here we go. You can see we have kind of like a natural bowl so that when we water, the water will go right down into the plant. Okay. So our last plant is a fan favorite. Everybody loves buckwheat. It's there are several species of buckwheat. We have grandifolium and parvifolium, but this one is Eriogonum fasciculatum, and it's ubiquitous or very widespread in coastal sage scrub habitat. As you can see out here, the brown flowers. And what's really interesting about the buckwheat is that it starts out with, the flowers start out with tiny pink clusters that change to white flowers that are umbral shaped, and then it goes from white to kind of a variegated brown and white, and it ends up being kind of a sulfur or brown color. In the old Crayolas, it would have been sienna, kind of a burnt brown. And so it kind of reminds me of a landscape plant called Yesterday, Today, and Tomorrow. But buckwheat has yesterday, today, tomorrow, and forever because it stays brown, and it is a favorite of birds, bees, butterflies, and bunnies. So you can see why we love buckwheat, and it really, ooh, here's some of that ice plant. Ooh, go, be free. Okay, so we've made our little bowls and we've set a good wish for all of our plants. And as you can see, when you put a shovel in the ground here at 2 on a Slough, you never know what you're gonna find. So this is a remnant of what this area was previously used for, which was a landfill. In the mid-40s and 50s, this was a landfill for the city of Imperial Beach and the naval base that's just to the east of us. So this is a really pretty one we might use for an art exhibit of some kind. So thank you very much. Here is our last plant, our favorite buckwheat. And we're going to just give them some water. If there's any questions, now would be the time. So I would like to thank you for joining us for National Public Lands Day, and I hope that this virtual experience was fine.
We have one question, is if plants are drought tolerant, does that mean you don't have to water them to get established?
No, to get established. Oh, if plants are drought tolerant, does that mean that they have to not be watered to get established? And the answer to that is a definitive no. We water our drought-tolerant plants for 2 to 3 months after we plant them, and then give them occasional watering through the summer. So thank you for that question.
And then the follow-up is how often to water in the beginning?
In the beginning, we water About once a week, maybe a gallon a plant. That's what I would, and I just kind of check the soil and look at the plant to see if it's starting to go into any stress, if the leaves are dying, if it starts to wilt and look thirsty.
Another question is, can you plant at any time of the year? Michelle is asking.
Can you plant at any time of the year? Well, Michelle, sometimes if you're planting in your own home garden, you can plant at any time of the year. The best time to plant for restoration is to take advantage of the cooler weather and to use less water. We plant in the fall, but I believe our native plant nursery has plants available in the springtime, so feel free to plant to your heart's desire year-round. No air holes. Okay, so I want to thank you for joining us for our National Public Lands Day. Thank you for your questions and your participation. It is my hope that by this time next year, we can physically be together. Happy trails.